I collapsed to the floor as my body suddenly began jerking and slamming itself, with foam coming from my mouth, almost like I was possessed. My classmates froze as I was now having a full-blown seizure, until I wasn't. And then everything stopped. I stopped. My heart stopped. This was only the first time I died that day. My memory of that day is like a dream, like an unfinished puzzle or a surreal, out-of-sequence movie, but this is what other people and I do remember. When I was 12, I was diagnosed with a heart condition called restrictive cardiomyopathy, which basically means my heart doesn't pump enough blood, and with time, it'll fail unless I get a new one. But I never let this stop me and would go on with days living like every other person. But that day, while I was heading up to the second floor to my next class, I began feeling winded and lightheaded. Then I felt my chest tighten up and my body take over. I don't remember anything that happened next, but as my friend told me later, I completely ghosted her when she said hello to me. I even bumped into her shoulder and continued walking without a single word or expression, with a stoned face, walking like I was some cyborg or machine on autopilot. While all of this happened, I didn't see a single person or feel an ounce of pain. Not until I reached my classroom door did I slowly come to my senses and began wondering how I even made it. But by then, my mind and body began turning on and off, bringing me back to reality and then out of it, almost like a survival mechanism. And then it happened. My heart started beating erratically and pumped so hard, it felt like something wanted to burst out of my chest. My mind finally caught up to my heart and a flood of pain rushed through my body. All I could do was silently grab my chest and feel the last thing I would as a living person. But I wasn't alone that day, and luckily, my friend Kay saw me and knew something was very wrong. She didn't immediately understand what was happening, so she told me to sit down. And then, everything went dark, and I took my last gulp of air that I would ever remember. My body began convulsing as foam started seeping from the corners of my mouth. Kay began to panic, but only for a split second, and then quickly positioned my head on her lap as my seizure jerked me left, right, up, down. At that moment, my teacher walked in and immediately pulled the emergency lever. And then, I stopped. I laid there with my eyes closed and my body flat, completely lifeless and frozen. I wasn't breathing anymore. My teacher put her hand on my neck, trying to feel a pulse, but I was already gone. The school nurse and a police officer ran into the classroom and saw everyone surrounding me. She was scared, but remembering her training and knowing that my life was now in their hands, she quickly began performing CPR, breathing and pumping my chest while the office called for an ambulance and grabbed the AED machine on the wall. Everything was caught on camera, as my classmates began filming every moment, not sure if I was going to die right in front of them. Even the nurse and police officer were unsure, but they kept performing CPR on me, switching off as one person breathed into my mouth and the other pumped my chest, trying to bring back a pulse. It was the moment my body began to feel a little cooler than before, when they made their final chest compressions and immediately grabbed the AED machine. Sticking the electrode pads to my chest, they listened carefully to the instructions spoken on the machine and charged the device, getting ready to shock my heart. They stood clear and pressed shock. The AED machine sent a shock that filled me from head to toe, slightly lifting my chest, and then the machine caught a pulse. I was in and out of consciousness and remember seeing hazy bright lights and the sound of the police officer coming in and out, trying to keep me awake. And then I faded back into darkness. This was the second time I died that day, although it wasn't at school. While being transported to the hospital, I had flatlined for a second time, where the paramedics managed to get me back with a very faint heart rate. I was now in critical condition. The school called my mom and told them I was being sent to the hospital. But because I've been hospitalized before for panic attacks, she thought this was another one of my episodes, and so she was in no rush to see me. When she did arrive at the hospital, a nurse was waiting for her in the ER, where she explained in detail that I was now fighting for my life. She saw the tangled cords, machines, and respirators hooked to my body and stood beside my bed. When, just as the nurse began walking out of the room, the machines began beeping and a voice came out to the loudspeaker, "Code blue, code blue, code blue." The nurse quickly took my mom out of the room, where a team of doctors swarmed in as my mom screamed and begged for them to save me. Over and over again, they took my vitals, charged the paddles, and did everything in their power to bring me back. Mom said that I looked like a rag doll being thrown around, but also that it was much quieter and less dramatic than what we see in the movies. She said she could hear me groan in pain with every shock of the paddles, as if I was feeling everything. And then she began praying to a god, any god, for help, even though we aren't religious. I'm not sure if anyone heard her, but I will say, even if things did not turn how they did in the end, knowing and seeing that many people trying to save a complete stranger of a girl is all the proof anyone should need to know that there is something within us that is beyond our understanding of life. It's been 2 years since that day, and as time goes by, my memory of the pain and uncertainty of that day becomes more foggy and fragmented. The doctors did get me back, and after a few days in the hospital, I miraculously left with no complications. Because of my heart issues, I am now on the waiting list, waiting for someone that can hopefully save me. I'm not sure when or how soon that will come, and at times, I wonder if what I went through will ever happen again. If today will be normal, but tomorrow, I will be in the tug-of-war of life. I can't answer those questions, and I don't think anyone ever can. But as I live my life to the fullest and continue to look forward, I know one thing, that whether you believe in one God or another, or nothing at all, that every moment of our lives, we are surrounded by angels. They don't have wings, nor do they have a halo. That's because it's the people that surround us in our daily lives. So as you watch this, whether that be in your room or somewhere public, just take a moment to look around and see the angels that surround you now.
Hello, thank you for watching my story. This experience I went through was pretty scary. I wanted to say that no matter what you go through, you will always come out in the end happy if you try hard enough. So believe in yourself. Thank you.